Good morning, AJ.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
man.
We have no idea if it's ever going to air, so if
No.
it does air, good news. It wasn't terrible. So what I'd like to know is, how did you get into the whole performance thing? What was this step one?
Well, I was always a sportsman, so I always played loads of sports when I was a kid. And I actually got injured when I was 12, 13 at my local tennis club. And the coach asked me to come and help him on a Saturday morning. So that was like my first taste of coaching. From there, I went on and on and on and on. I started to pick up coaching qualifications, but started to realise that I didn't want to go into traditional sports coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Despite that, 13 years later, I stopped. But I then started to pick up more strings to my bow. So I started to develop more qualifications, so one in nutritional advising, exercise qualifications, went to uni and did sports management, and then specialised in performance coaching. And sort of, I tried loads of different things until I realised kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I pretty much fell into performance coaching, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And how did you like you said, you fell into performance coaching.
Yeah.
How specifically did you end up in esports?
Well, I used to play League of Legends, and used to, I think, is like the most important part of that sentence.
Like a lot of us.
I hate that game
Yes.
now. But yeah, I used to play a lot of League of Legends, and I was watching the pro scene a lot with one of my mates.
Yep.
And I just started to notice there didn't seem to be many people who were there on... There seemed to be like a couple sports psychologists, but I wasn't aware of any people that were helping with diet or sleep or exercise. Or even like emotional regulation, different things in-game that might be beneficial.
And that was a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So right now you can see more and more of them.
Yeah, a little bit. Not as much as I'd like, I don't think. I'd like to see a lot more of it, but there seems to be some more support than it was. I've been doing this for just 3.5, 4 years now in esports. The change is drastic, obviously, but not where I'd want it to be, I don't think. But yeah, I just noticed that there wasn't really anyone doing it, so I thought, why not try and take the bits that I know and the bits that I've learned over time and apply it to something that I really enjoy. And yeah, a bit of luck along the way as well, man, I think.
When you initially got into esports and performance side of it, did you think it's going to be as fun and as fucking annoying as it is?
So there's never a dull day, I know that much. I pretty much knew exactly what I was getting myself into. Through coaching traditional sports, I was coaching 2-year-olds tennis for years, bro.
Right.
Now, not everyone in esports is 2, but there's a contingent of people that might be that way. Long story short, I think what happens in esports, and I could be completely wrong, but my sort of guess is that people who play professional esports have been... they're generally introverted, generally speaking. And on top of that, they've been sort of cooped up in a bedroom for a very long time, From when I was playing traditional sports, and as a kid, I was outside most of the time. Now, if you're 16, let's say 15, and you're incredible at Rocket League, you probably have been playing an awful lot of Rocket League. And you might not have been exposed to team environments and things like that. So that's where struggles can be, hence why never a dull day. But yeah, I love what I do, which makes it 55 million times easier. But yeah.
Have you, speaking of the, people not going outside or not meeting, being in the team environments, have you noticed any change with sort of how COVID has affected that? Because over the last few years, because I feel like a lot of people who now reach the age of, getting into esports, sort of 15, 16, their last few years were all cooked up in a house, and they haven't seen anything else besides esports. Yeah,
I don't know, honestly, is the answer. I think, surprisingly, esports was one of the industries that really wasn't that heavily affected by COVID. And I think if you were in esports before COVID, which obviously is a caveat, then getting into esports, if you were in esports before COVID, not that much changed for you. I guess it's the people that were let's say 13, COVID hits, 2 years later they're a pro Rocket League player or pro League of Legends player or whatever it might be. That's where I think there might be issues. But one of the things that I've started asking people in the pre-onboarding and onboarding stages of whether we're looking at a team is, have you had any experience in traditional sports or any team environments? And I think I've come to realise that is actually a really important first step. Now, obviously, if someone hasn't been in traditional sports, that doesn't mean you can't therefore be a part of Resolve or anything that we're doing. Absolutely not. I think what it means is I just have a better understanding of where you're at the moment and where you might need help in the future. Because team environments, whether it's 3 for Rocket League, 5 for League of Legends, whatever it might be, team environments are drastically different everywhere, but there's a golden thread through it, right? And that golden thread might be how we communicate with individuals, or what it might look like if we're in an argument and we need to hash something out. If you haven't been in those sorts of environments, getting into that quickly is very tough.
Looking at the young generation people coming up and doing the initial tests of the players and things like that. What is the one advice you're sick and tired of telling people to do because it's so simple and it can improve everyone's performance and just life in general? Okay,
well, I'll do one out of game and one in game. One out of game would be just look after your well-being, and for me, well-being can be encompassed by diet, sleep, and exercise. If you're looking after the things you put in your body, from the nutritional side to hydration and things like that, you're getting a good amount of sleep, whatever's good for you. 7 to 9 hours is a general good ballpark. And you're moving your body, you'll probably notice a huge difference in terms of mood, but also in terms of cognitive performance and things like that. When it comes to in-game itself, I would just say that people need to learn how to be self-critical and self-analytical. Too many times have I seen people shift blame. That's not my fault. If so-and-so did this, I would have been in a better spot, things like that. When you start to take onus and you take blame for certain things in some sort of a way, where you can say, what could I have done better in this scenario? How could I have improved if this scenario was slightly different? Or how could I have done better in this scenario? Those sorts of questions are the ones that really start to develop individuals at a very, very, very fast rate. I always ask people, what did I do well? What can I improve upon? What am I going to take into next practice? And if you can answer those 3 questions succinctly, I think you'll find if you're doing that after every scrim or every practice session, you'll be flying like way quicker than others as well. Which is the important thing.
I know I think it's impossible to answer this question, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. The 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Does it matter if it starts at 10 or if it starts at 3 a.m. as long as it's consistently the same time? Yeah.
So the most important thing I think is wake time. So what time do you wake up? And as long as that fits into your schedule. Obviously, if you start work at 9 o'clock and you're waking up at 12, there's a problem, right? But
oops.
if you want to wake up at 10 a.m. The way that I generally work is, what time do you want to wake up? What time's a good time to wake up? 10 a.m. Right. Well, let's subtract 8 hours for now. We get to 2 a.m. That's the time you need to be asleep by in order to get a good amount of sleep, right? Theoretically, therefore, whether it's 2 p.m. that you want to wake up or 10 a.m., it doesn't really matter. The only thing that might matter is light, natural light, because that is going to have an effect. But I would say try and wake up in the morning, ideally. But once you've got that 10 a.m. minus 8 hours, 2 a.m., people forget that it takes you a while to get to sleep as well. So if you're getting in bed at 2 a.m. to try and sleep, probably 3 a.m. before you're sleeping, now all of a sudden you're waking up at 1 p.m., right? So I would say you need an hour to wind down, half an hour before that.
So going to sleep at 2 a.m., spending 2 hours in front of a TikTok does not count as part of the sleeping hours.
No,
okay,
definitely not.
I need to make a note of that. Do you have any, because I know it might be slightly different for esports athletes, but do you have any morning routines that really work for you and sort of help you start your day properly?
So I would say there's 2 or 3 things that are really important when you wake up. So let's say your sleep-wake cycle's good, you've gotten up at a decent time, you're sleeping a good amount. I would say the first thing that you need to do is think about hydration. You've just spent 8 hours with no water, no hydration, so your body's going to be dehydrated. That's actually one of the massive factors of cognitive decline and a lack of cognitive performance is dehydration. So you want to avoid that at all costs. On top of that, I would say get some natural sunlight. So not just flick a switch and keep your curtains closed. Open the curtains, get outside preferably, and get the lux, the lumens from the sun. On top of that, I would then say move your body as well. So get your blood flowing, get everything moving. And then and only then should you think about caffeine. All right. Not wake up groggy-eyed, chug a coffee, why am I not awake? It's wake up, have some water, get outside, get moving. By the way, when I say get outside, I don't mean go and run a marathon. I mean literally just stand outside if need be. And then have a coffee. Once your body's woken up, caffeine has a way greater effect on you than a really groggy and dreary-eyed individual. So that's
getting a dog and a puppy is a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's one way of
certainly doesn't affect sleep, I tell you.
No, not at all. No. Okay, great. What was the other thing that I wanted to ask you? Because I know it was really interesting for for the up and coming players. Is there any sort of tips that you would like to give? Like, let's say someone who's watching, just like one thing that you want them to learn or just start doing. Anything about food or energy drinks? Stop drinking.
Okay, let's go down the energy drink route then. People forget how big of an impact caffeine has, right? And people think, like, if I have a Red Bull now, it will be out of my system. So caffeine has a half-life of 6 to 8 hours, which means it takes 6 to 8 hours for half of the caffeine in whatever you've consumed to get out of your body.
Yeah.
Half. So let's say you have X or Y energy drink, not naming any names, but that might have 150 milligrams of caffeine in it. So 75 milligrams of caffeine is still in your body 8 hours later. This is crazy. So if you're having an energy drink and you want to be asleep by 11 p.m. or 10 p.m, you've got to stop having energy drinks and caffeine at least 8 hours before that, right? So what I generally do is I, like the old man that I am, I'm in bed by 9, 10 o'clock. I will stop having caffeine. The absolute last time I can have a cup of coffee is 2 p.m.
Right.
Ideally, it's 12 o'clock, something like that. But realistically, that doesn't always work that way, right?
So 7 cups of coffee before 12?
You're fine. There is a limit as well, right? There's. I was reading an article recently that was sort of saying past 250 milligrams of caffeine, the positive effects tend to drop off. So that's like 2 to 3 cups of coffee, 1 to 2 energy drinks, realistically, is where I would say, like, you probably should stop after that.
So the last question. It's not a very comfortable thing to hold, is it?
No, I don't know quite where to hold. I don't know, down here, up here.
The last question is in regards to exercise, because that was the thing that I wanted to ask. In between games, so let's say if you're playing League of Legends, and you have, let's say, 5 minutes between the games, including the pick and ban phase and things like that. What quick exercise can people do?
Oh, so much. So recently I changed up my exercise routines and regimes and things like that to incorporate a lot more body weight stuff in line with the MMA training that I do. And basically what I found is I should have been doing body weight exercises way more for way longer. And essentially things like push-ups, body weight squats, dips, planks, different movements like this. Pull-ups a little harder because you need a piece of equipment for that. But those sort of exercises are fantastic, generally speaking, for sort of muscle hypertrophy, building muscle. You can also go down the route of some sort of basic HIIT or cardio exercises like mountain climbers, star jumps, tuck jumps, high knees, things like that. I would say go with body weight exercises like the push-ups, like the planks, avoid sit-ups, because if you're not doing that right, that can be awful for your lower back. But those sort of body weight exercises can be amazing. And, you know, what I like to think as well is even if you're not doing exercise, just moving in some capacity, go and get yourself a glass of water, go and, you know, stick your head out a window for a minute. Those sorts of things can be really good. Cumulatively, this has a massive effect. So let's say you play 10 games of League of Legends a day. Bless your heart, I hope you're okay. And there's a 5-minute break in between each one. All of a sudden, you've got 50 minutes worth of exercise there. If I said to someone, go and do 50 minutes worth of exercise, they'd be like, oh, Christ, that's a lot, isn't it? Cumulatively, if you've done 50 minutes of exercise, whether it's push-ups, pull-ups, whether it's mountain climbers, HIIT stuff, that's really good. Now you do that 3 times a week. Now you've got 3 hours just shy of 2.5 hours of exercise. And that's phenomenal comparative to 0, right, as well. So, yeah, cumulatively it's huge.
Yeah. On that note, you mentioned mountain climbers. They can fuck off.
I didn't say burpees. That was
okay, I'll give you that. Right, AJ, thanks so much. And thank you for sharing all the info.
Of course. Appreciate your time.